Hey, folks, welcome back to another edition of the 21st Century Engineer, a podcast tailored to provoke thought and to help individuals in various stages of their professional career in the civil infrastructure industry to think about important issues and to come up with solutions that may not always have been obvious and certainly weren't necessarily something presented in school. I have three guests with me. This is a change in the format that I've used in the past, but unfortunately, or fortunately, as it would turn out, the topic is so broad and so important that I found three subject area experts that I just wanted to share with you. These individuals are dynamic, informed, they're successful in the conversation that we want to have today about things like systems thinking, about putting safety first when we're putting our infrastructure projects together, and basically building the next generation of civil infrastructure. Uh, I'm not sure how you're seeing the screen, but for me, Bill Hayden, who's visited with me before on this podcast, is returning today. In fact, Bill, I credit in part to creating the podcast today, the advocating for this idea of systems thinking and emphasizing safety and security in the marketplace. Ahmed Albayati he smiles because I almost got it right this time. is on the faculty and is at a university. And don't hold the fact that he's an academician against him. We all are in our own ways. As I had a former student of mine who I lectured to back in 2017, who's a surveyor, say, if you're a professional, your obligation is to educate. And whether you do it as a job or whether you do it as part of your career or as you do it as part of my podcast today, that's the goal. And that transitions me to Chad Morrison, who not an academician by employment, but an academician by the fact that he's sitting here sharing his perspectives and views. Guys, thank you. Let me give you a few moments to kind of characterize yourselves in the fashion of how would you like to be remembered? Bill?
Yes, thank you for that lovely introduction. I have about 60 years in the engineering, architect, construction, infrastructure world. Some of the work covers land development in Houston, Texas, wastewater systems in northeastern U.S. municipalities, municipal highway construction, chief operating officer for over 8 years of a 150-person EAC organization. And one of the biggest learning parts of my background was quality management system consultant for over 9 years to national and international EAC firms, as well as within federal and state infrastructure organizations. And then finally, tunnel construction shift engineer in New York City and Manhattan, both hard rock and soft ground, over about a 3-year period.
Well, I understand that subway in New York's about 100 years old, so that makes you 120.
Um,
Anyway, that purely rhetorical, Bill. Purely rhetorical. But thank you, Ahmed.
Yes, I'm Ahmed. I teach construction
He
safety
can't
and
even say his last name. What do you say here? Go ahead.
yeah, Ahmed Albayati.
Yeah.
So I love to teach. I teach construction safety, construction management. I teach about subservice utilities, also how to prevent damages to subservice utilities. I love do research because I think the research is the only way to learn new things. Otherwise, if we keep like we are transforming knowledge if we just read books. So I believe research is a very good tool for all of us to learn new things. Before academia, I worked in the industry. I worked as a construction engineer, as a safety coordinator, and I'm really thankful for your invitation today. Thank you.
No, thanks for being with us, Ahmed. And of course, Bill and I also, as academicians, understand the value. Chad does as well. The idea of application of the scientific method to validate. So it becomes rather than impression or allegory or analogy, it becomes fact, or at least scientific fact, which means it's what we know today, and we'll change it tomorrow once we find out more information. Chad, how would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Chad Morrison. I am a managing engineer with Park Corporation out of the Foxborough office. I've been with the group for about 6 months now. Before that, I was with a steel contractor. I started my career in high school, working my way from a detailer into an engineering role where I designed miscellaneous steel and structural steel connections. And I've been heavily involved with ASCE. I'm currently co-chair of the Site Safety Committee and uh, involved with the local section. And my current activities have been involved with design science and comprehensivity, and actually visiting Rhode Island School of Design to get more involved with the architecture side and more of a comprehensive design approach. So that's something I've been studying on my own recently.
And as I said, academicians infest everybody. And in the same regard, the profession is about teaching and learning and sharing. And you're doing that as well, Chad. And we appreciate that. So it's important that we share our knowledge, not just keep it internalized. Okay, gentlemen, let's start the conversation by emphasizing or talking a little bit about workplace safety and what some of the concerns are and what some of the issues are. I just did a podcast recently with a young lady who's has an industrial background, and as she put it, their goal was always to make sure, her goal at least, was always to make sure that everybody got to go home at the end of the day. At the end of the day, workplace safety is really not, and in the civil infrastructure area, it's not much different. And what are your perspectives on this idea of workplace safety and some of the concerns to make sure that everybody gets to go home? Anybody?
Well, that's correct that it has a lot of roots in industrial side of things. My father was a machinist by trade, and so he would bring home the T-shirts and the safety programs from his office quite frequently. So it was really instilled with me at a young age, even before I started my career, that even as he went from the shop to the office, it was a part of the company culture there. And the challenges that we face on the construction side is that the shop and the field are separated, and the designers and the work site are separated from each other contractually and physically, whereas in the industrial side, it's managed within house, and the quality can be controlled and the safety can be controlled.
Right. Well, when you're manufacturing something to a specification and you're worried about replication, it's one thing. A lot of civil infrastructure, of course, is unique. And so the moving the design house inside and then the construction side of the business outside is just the way things have always been. So that segregation is part of that problem. Ahmed, in the stuff that you've done, have you seen that kind of an issue with the segregation, the fact that designers do or don't think about safety, and how that impacts the construction environment?
So yes, so first of all, I think safety is a very noble business, is a very important aspect of what we do, because again, ensuring everyone's safety, ensuring people return back home safe is part of how we define ourselves as a human. We have to care about our people, people around us.
Right.
So I think safety is a huge and very important thing. Unfortunately, in construction, what I see at least is there is some kind of segregation between design and construction. Those who do the design, normally they say, okay, safety is not my business, is all this general contractor responsibility or the subcontractor responsibility, which is true when we come to the regulations and all regulations, policies, is all about, yes, general contractor are responsible for safety. But still, if there is an opportunity for me as a designer to help to make sure the job site or the construction is safe for those who do the construction, we should do it. We should do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Bill, I think you have a perspective of why that isn't done and what needs to be involved to see that it's done. The fact that the designer does have impact on the construction environment, and how in developing the project designs in the conventional system, how they can go about advocating for or enhancing the safety for the workers that actually put the project together.
Sure. One of the things that I learned that came out of my quality management consulting experience is that we have basically morphed both academically and in practice into silos.
Right.
As a result, no matter what gets done in, for example, in the planning and design phase, it's not irrelevant, but it's going to happen or not happen in the construction phase. And what we're learning is that until we have the people in the corporate boardrooms and the C-suites of the organizations involved get this as their number one priority, everything else is going to be cosmetic.
And to that, to make that priority, when it becomes a priority, what's the solution? What should be what do you see, Bill, is the first step to tearing those silos down? What's the mechanism that makes silos go away and collaboration, the order of the day, the business model?
I would say the reality seems to be, and I'm no expert on planet-wide reality on this subject, but from my perspective, the reality seems to be that we've got to get some, I don't know what the right expression might be, some groups in academia and in practice to come together and to start understanding and then unbundling the configuration of the systems that they have in place that aren't really coordinated. We're going to be talking about solution approaches after this, Dennis? Or right now?
Yes. But my thought right now was that connectivity, and the idea is that, at least in my mind, to tear, the easiest way to break a silo or begin to soften the silo or weaken the silo is through communication. The idea that one ends up having, instead of my designing in a box, I start talking to contractors, or I develop an expertise in construction as a designer so that I can have some perspective of what the risks and realities are on the construction site.
Yeah, if we did that, if we flushed that out, if we were in a room together and had some flip charts, we'd be fighting over who grabs the black pen to get up to the flip chart to start working this through. Yeah. But it turns out that when you take a look at the way organizations, private sector, let's stick with private sector organizations, they have insurance agents and they have attorneys. And then you take a look at our academic societies. They have attorneys and insurance carriers. And everybody is spending a lot of time protecting their legal ASS. And there's almost an unwillingness to share beyond what their attorneys tell them they're allowed to say. Sure. My fondest memory of this, I'll end this quick. My fondest memory is when I got exposed to forensic engineering. I could not believe that we have engineers who did detailed, commendable research, who discovered what went wrong, but because of the legality of it, they don't really share it with the rest of the profession.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
So there you go. Silo mentality.
Guilty. I've been in that situation and muzzled as a result. Chad, from your perspective, the idea of communication, do you see that happening at all in the application world? I come to you because you're in the practice field, by and large. Is there communication now going on between the construction side and the engineering side outside of the design build environment?
Yes, so the communication has improved over the years. Certainly since the pandemic, we've been able to connect better. Right now I think we're broadcasting from Buffalo, Detroit, Providence, and Dennis, where are you at?
Yeah, okay.
So, so we're connected, right?
I'm in Northeast Mississippi. Yeah.
Excellent. So we're connected from around the country right now, and this is what's happening on the construction side, in the design process, with the contractors, and with the architect, with the engineer. And what I would say is, if you don't have a legal contract with the other party, you have to include the entity that you do have a contract with in the conversation. So you need that permission to reach out. And that more or less happens. And from the design perspective, designing is an individual activity. You sit down, you get your piece of paper, you get your calculator out, and you go ahead and you design that beam, you design that connection, and then you might have a colleague check it. Design by committee is very difficult to accomplish, and the results are usually something that no one's happy with. So it's the designer's responsibility, the engineer's responsibility, to collect that information and distill it into a constructible detail. Because if you leave it to an iron worker or a builder, they're just going to do it the way they've done it for the past 10 years. And maybe that works, but it hasn't been reviewed by an engineer.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Yeah, man, I always hated that term.
What I learned in that quality management consulting experience, you realized I knew little to nothing about it. I was the only one in a firm who wanted to take on the department head for quality assurance, which was a misnomer. But this is after Dr. Deming came out with "If Japan can, why can't we?" And all of a sudden, everybody had to pay attention to this. And what I've learned is the system for doing the work that we have, the way it is right now, is communication and collaboration and cooperation. Those are all, I don't mean this sarcastically, but they're all really good Boy Scout, Girl Scout kind of things. At the end of the day, what we really need to do is to bring some people together to take a look at what's happening on site and to deal directly with the issue. And the short story is, I don't mean this factually, but just to make a point, almost regardless of the design and the construction method, is if they don't have a safety first mandate from the chief executive officers who make it part of their day job to see to it that everybody leaves the site every day with all of their fingers and body parts still in place and they don't die. Until we get that kind of commitment, the rest of this is just going to go into professional papers.
Right. Well, and speaking of professional papers, Ahmed, I know that you've looked at a lot with regard to alternative strategies for communicating and how what we're commonly calling these days systems thinking impacts that communication style and the workplace environment. Are there some solutions that you've come across that you'd like to share in our brief time together today?
Yes, absolutely. So basically, again, communication is crucial because, again, construction by itself is a social process. Like it's something done by people, requested by people, designed by people. So it's all about people. So we need to have this communication. And because of that, we have these alternative project delivery methods like design, build, and CM at risk. All of them, again, evolve around we need to communicate more. We need the design people, construction people need to work together and communicate more. However, when it's come to safety, it's a little bit different. Like when we have CM at risk, maybe when we have design build, they may talk about material, they may talk about budget, they may talk about schedule. But safety, one of the issue with it is the designer, they don't learn safety in the schools, right? Plus, there's no obligations. There's no legal obligation in the United States for them to do a design review. So there is this disconnect. So what we should do,
Go ahead.
Yeah. So what we can do is to initiate this communication. And because we know designer, and this is not their fault, maybe our fault as an educator, we don't teach them that much about construction safety. They don't have knowledge. So the idea is, and this is what we're going to discuss about today, which is upside down, even after the design is complete, people in the field, if they see something that could be improved, safety could be improved through a design change, then we should allow this communication channel to be open. We should allow people in the field to send maybe a request for information, request for change, to tell the designer, okay, okay, designer people, okay, we have this suggestion, and this suggestion may improve site safety. It will not really influence the integrity. It will not really influence the function of the construction, but it could improve safety. So, and we should really encourage designer owners to look at these requests and maybe change the design if this will save people life. Why not?
Yeah, and that's what you mean by systems. It's not just a systems thinking. It's flipping the script in the context of, I'm not just designing, and I'm going to steal from Chad. I'm not just designing a member of a structure. I'm designing the structure, and how does that member fit into that structure, and how does that structure get erected
You go. Yes.
in a way that is safe, sound, secure, but also produces the product desired in an economical way. And
Dr. Russell Akoff had a statement that you just triggered for me, Dennis.
sure.
He made the statement. He was all about systems thinking. He said the architects have it figured out. First, the architects design the house, then they design the rooms.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, and what
And,
we're
and, then,
talking
and then they call the engineer and ask him how to make it stand up.
yes, and what we have is a disconnected collaborative communication practices in our work. One of the things I broke out 4 categories I learned from the quality consulting. The 4 categories I could group my learning under were people, process, technology, and leadership. The part that most people come to the table prepared to do, even if it isn't always perfect, is technology. What we have little to no operating knowledge of is people, process, and leadership. And understanding leadership isn't just a higher level of management.
No.
There's a behavior series that has to be attached to it. And our people never, ever get that.
No, that's absolutely right, Bill. Chad, are you seeing the same thing in practice? Or have you run across this issue of the siloed thinking stifling or even causing safety issues?
Yes, the silo thinking, it's just present right from academia into practice, where you have civil engineering, it's split into multiple disciplines. So you have
Exactly. Yeah. Go. Keep
um,
going.
within the profession, um, we all do different jobs, and so even among ourselves as civil engineers, we don't always align. And then you add the layer of the architect, the regulator, and then the subcontractors who have to step in for the delegated design. Um, Everyone plays a role, and so they all have their separate contracts, and the language has to be specific to their scope and their liability coverage. And in doing so, they don't want to step out of bounds most of the time, and that's certainly justified. So we're not suggesting that anyone operates outside of their field of expertise. We're not suggesting that anyone go beyond what they're covered for with their insurance. If you reach that point where you can't participate in something because of your insurance coverage or something, you just say, I need to exclude myself from this part of the design because I'm not covered for this. And you share that with the group, and there'll be communication and openness about everybody's respective roles rather than finger pointing.
Yeah.
Yep.
But in the same regard, in the systems thought, while you may be legally siloed into working only in a particular area, what you're working on is impacted by and impacts other aspects of the design. So that doesn't keep you from communicating restrictions, requirements, expectations that you're building into your part of the design with regard to, because you mentioned foundations, structures. I've got a foundation issue. I've got seismic. I've got structural issues I got to deal with. I've got ingress, egress. So there may be transportation issues. There's environmental issues in terms of how the system's going to operate. And so there's and you said it correctly. I mean, civil engineering, when I came through, it was civil engineering. We still award degrees by civil engineering, but you look at the programs, and under ABET, you have to have 4 technical areas. A lot of universities have more. My program has 7 technical areas. Everything from construction engineering to environmental and transportation to structures, and you throw in 3 other geotech and a couple other areas, and all of a sudden now you've got all these little silos that are discrete areas of expertise, and you've got to be able to interact. You got to be able to understand.
You triggered a memory. When I was a senior, and I got educated in civil engineering quite late in life. I must have been around 40 or 45 years old. And there was a structural course in my 4th year. And the title of it was Indeterminate Structural Analysis.
Yeah.
I fell on my knees at home and told God that I promise I will never, ever design a bridge if he just gets me at least a big and the hell out of this course. And God kept her word and I kept mine.
Yeah. But for me, it was, I looked at it and I said, if it's indeterminate, why are we talking about it? Let's talk about stuff we can determine.
I couldn't believe it.
And for Chad's benefit, that was the class that made me decide I wanted to be an environmental engineer. It just was. But then again, I'll also, for the sake of the environmentals that are listening, we think in a systems concept all the time. How my first stage reactor impacts my second stage reactor and is impacted by my pretreatment process is something we do. You design the whole facility, not talking about safety, but you get in that concept. And safety is part of that. You're thinking about how we do things and advocate for safety. Let's flip the script just a little bit and let's talk about the challenge. Let's talk about the issues. And the way we talked about it at one point, getting ready for today, was the idea of developing a contractor's perspective for the design process. Anybody want to talk about that?
Well, yes, I didn't realize we had moved on. I'll be very brief. I want to bring to your attention, you can locate them going into Google, Gilbane construction company and Caltrans safety systems. They both have, in the last 2 years or so, totally re-engineered their systems for safety that cover a lot of the points that most of us are frustrated not seeing across the entire profession. So Caltrans safety and Gilbane, and I'll stop right there.
No, and Bill, I apologize for that. I did slide past that, and I knew you picked up some of the key points from that, but certainly recognizing Gilbane, which is a consulting firm, and then Caltrans, which is obviously the California Transportation Authority, and the work that they've done in this area is not insignificant.
Yeah,
and I appreciate you getting back to recognizing that.
Yeah, if you read what they've put together, Chad and Ahmed, some of the very points that we mentioned at different levels of frustration that we've yet to see profession-wide, both of them have taken a commendable stab at it and have results worth learning and sharing.
Yeah, very good. Thanks, Bill, for not letting that get past us. Now, let me go back to the question. How does one take develop a contractor's perspective or a construction perspective in doing design? How do you do that, folks? Anybody? Or I'll speak up. You need to do it, or I'll give you my answer.
Yeah. So basically, if you're putting together a drawing or a detail, how do you know when it's finished? So if it's a field drawing, you know when it's complete when you look at it and you can see enough information on there that you can figure out how to build it.
Yeah.
And if it's a shop drawing, is there enough information on there that if you look at it can you figure out how to build it in the shop?
Yeah.
And so you take that level of drafting and detailing and put it to the design phase. If you worked out your design from loading to end performance, you should be able to know the components to get from point A to point B, even if it's a delegated design and someone else is responsible for that aspect. You know that they have the information needed to contribute their part of that design to complete the system. So it's an understanding of what's required to put your design together and build it. Because if you're asking someone to go out there and build something, you have to put yourself in their shoes to think about, is this going to be more difficult for them or less difficult for them? Is this going to put them in an unsafe position? And what can I do to help them be safer in their approach, rather than just saying they'll figure it out?
Yeah, exactly. And I've seen too many consulting firms, too many engineers in firms say, I just have to design it, they'll figure it out. Good point, Chad. Ahmed?
Yeah, and I think there will be some kind of disconnection between the two because of the project delivery methods, because that will be used or has been used, because of the legal issues, liability issues. So there will be this disconnection. But still, we need to know that, okay, this product, this is the design, will be constructed by people in the field. So again, and we are not perfect. We know we're gonna do all mistakes. So why not listen even after the design is complete, even if after the design has been handed to the general contractor or subcontractor? After we hand it to them, we're gonna tell them, okay, here is what we think is the best based on our knowledge. But if there's something you see, let us know. We are open to look at it to improve the design, because there's always something those in the field will see it, and we should learn from them because they will do it and have been doing it for years. So having this disconnection make no sense within the construction environment, because again, construction people are a customer for designer. They will use their product. So they need to have some kind of feedback channel if there is anything that can be improved, and there are many ideas, opportunities to improve.
Yeah, to show my age, I grew up in an environment where the engineers actually celebrated contractors coming in too low on a bid or shorting themselves. There was an adversarial relationship, not a collaborative relationship that existed in that environment, and I think it's reflected in the projects and how they went about, and that unwillingness to share the responsibility to see that the project's corrected.
And safety is a shared responsibility. Everyone have some kind of thing that they can contribute. And as Bill said, is a leadership, and not just with upper management level, with every organizational level. There we need people who leads safety, because it's a shared responsibility.
Correct, and that extends to the ownership as well. You need buy-in from the ownership, that it's a design requirement for the project, that it's an expectation for the designers early on and the contractors towards the end. And in order to get that buy-in or to show that value to the owner, you may have to extend it beyond construction and say that your prevention through design, it doesn't just apply to construction. It's going to make a facility that's easier for them to maintain throughout its lifespan, and then hopefully take apart during its demolition. So if it's easy to put together, it's probably going to be easy to take apart as well. So there's a benefit in the long term as well.
And that's part of the systems concept. Again, it's not just build it. It's again, pull out the environmental term. It's life cycle. It's cradle to grave.
Yeah, if you
design.
Yeah, Bill.
Go ahead, Ahmed.
No, after you. Go ahead.
Yeah, it is one of the things I learned. I only became aware of the expression systems thinking. What predated it was the U.S. military did something called human systems integration. to improve the way military,
Nice.
I don't know what to say, arms or equipment or whatever are made.
Yeah, all the above.
And that led me to go a little further. And the one thing that I learned is, took away generically, is that this isn't something for any one part of the profession, whether it's academia or the organizations in the private and public sector who build things. This is a radical systems change. Everything and everyone are connected. And no matter how well you might feel about what you did in design and hand it off, it really, I don't mean it's meaningless, but it's not going to get the attention it needs if the culture in a construction organization doesn't have a safety first culture that isn't just bulletin boards and balloons with the words on it, but the organization's C-suite actually is involved in it with their deeds, not just their words. Until that happens, none of these corrections are going to make a loud enough noise.
And Ahmed, you wanted to say?
Yeah, I want to say is design will not complete after the designer has done. We should consider that design will be complete after we construct it. So we should extend its life, the design life, whatever, life cycle, life process, till the construction is done. And we should be open to any suggestions from those who do
Yes.
do the construction itself. And when I want to say also about what Bill said, safety first. Safety first, we can only achieve it by integrating safety into system, into the process itself. Like, we have to consider safety is similar to cost, similar to schedule, similar to quality. Okay, it's one of the values, because again, I see a lot of few locations, few workplaces. They said safety first, but there's no process there. It never has been integrated in the system. No one knows what to do when it comes to safety. Yes, safety is first, but what should I do? It should be part of the system.
And the environment, that's an excellent insight. And take that let's make it company XYZ, where it's safety first. And then the foreman comes up to the work crew and says, it's Friday, it's 3:00 in the afternoon. If we can just get one more lift of a floor slab up, there'll be a $3,000 bonus for each of us. 21 people died in Connecticut at a hotel about 15 or 18 years ago. So this includes everything we're all saying, but this is radical change. This is re-engineering. We're not trying to improve safety. Improvement wants to know, how do we do it better? We want to ask, why do we still keep doing the same stuff over and over again when it's not working?
And that's the point. It's not working. And the term that you've used with me is the idea of using upside down design, which I think is at the end of the day thinking, what am I going to end up with and how do I get there, rather than what do I start off with and how am I going to make it work? It's coming up with starting at the conclusion and working back through the process of how do I achieve what I have to achieve, and then putting the pieces together in a way that leads to a safe end product. And by the way, great. Go ahead, Ahmed.
And by the way, this idea of upside down is come from practitioners. I was teaching OSHA 30 in Asheville, North Carolina, and one of my trainees come to me and tell me, look, he was a superintendent in the field, and he told me, okay, I did these suggestions to the designer to improve site safety. And the designer said, okay, that's fine with me. I have no problem with it. And that saved us, make the job easier. Instead of excavating, like, I'm not sure at that time, 20 feet, we are excavating only 12 feet. So it's much easier for us, much safer for us. Sure. So I think there's a need, and those people who do the construction, they have a lot of idea. So if we open this door, I guess will be great for everyone.
Yeah. Ahmed, do you want to say something about ESL and the safety of those who don't read or write English, or understand to speak it on the construction site? You did work on this.
Yeah, this was my PhD dissertation thesis. Is all about Hispanic workers in the United States. So yes, I think this is required a lot of discussion actually. But again, we should be sure we have, again, it's all about communications. So we should really have someone from them be leaders, safety leaders who can speak both language. At least this is one of the recommendations for sure, and they can communicate, act as a communication channel between their supervisors and the workers. But again, this is another animal within safety we need to tackle.
Yes.
Well, at the end of the day, it's about communication.
Communication.
And whether it's a language issue or it's a prejudice issue or it's a bias issue or it's a financial issue, we've got to get, or for that matter, even a legal issue. We got to get the priorities in place, which is protecting people before, during, and after the construction process. And that becomes all part of it. Guys, we've kind of run out of time. There's a much broader series of conversations. I wanted to talk about the advantages of bid build versus design bid build and the obstacles to what we're talking about in both of those environments. I want to talk a little bit about construction documents and whether the emphasis on limiting liability in the construction of our construction documents is a positive thing or a negative thing. I think both of those. The only thing I can say is it looks to me like we're going to have to get together again at some point, obviously in the future, because we can't go back in time and continue the conversation.
Could I beg for 1 minute or less?
Well, actually, I'm going to ask you to do the 1 minute wrap up.
Oh, sure. Put all the pressure on me.
You got it, kid. You just asked for it. Seriously, you just asked for it. So go for it. 1 minute. What did we just say?
As the leadership of Caltrans in Gilbane has taught us, upper management is the originator and owner of the organization's safety culture, integrating safety into the plan and bidding process, actively partnering as safety leaders during construction. And finally, this conversation needs to move to the boardroom and C-suites of the bidders organization. The buck stops there.
Yeah. And as long as the liability doesn't stop here, we're in good shape. Okay. Gentlemen, again, thank you for your time. I think we need to talk about maybe doing this again, changing the format, just not format, but changing the outline just a little bit and maybe focus in on some of these points and elaborating. And to those of you that have tuned in today, thank you for your investment of time. As I close these, I always say, I hope that investment in us and what our conversation has been today pays dividends to you in your workplace and in your life. The object of these conversations is to make you a subject area expert, to empower you to be a servant leader, and so that you can go forth and make changes that may not be always easy to make, but are needed. And at the end of the day, as a professional, whether you have a license or not, as a professional, your obligation is to others first. And that's what this conversation's been about. Until the next time we get together, in whatever context that is, I hope you all remain safe and look forward to talking with you again.
Thanks again, Dennis.
Thank you, guys.
Ahmed, thank you.
Bye.